Tonight, on the CBS Saturday Night Movies, this gentleman saved this little girl's life, but they accused him of harming her.
Do this ourselves.
And he was tragically murdered. Now, one by one, the men of this town are dying. Who is his avenger? Is it the dead man's grief-stricken mother?
They killed my boy!
The little girl who loved him?
I know what you did to Bubba.
Or could it be the Scarecrow? Dark Night of the Scarecrow, coming up next.
In a world where podcasts reign supreme, two friends dare to ask, do you even movie? Hosted by filmmaker Henrique Couto and movie aficionado David D. Neuer. Spoiler alert.
Hello, my friends, and welcome back to Do You Even Movie? I'm, of course, your host, Henrique Couto, here with my good buddy and lover of violent vengeance,
maybe,
David De Neuer.
Greetings.
And we have a very special, very spooky Halloween episode this week.
We do.
As opposed to the other weeks of Halloween episodes we've already done this month.
I think this is the spookiest.
Well, I would be hard-pressed to disagree.
Yeah.
Because tonight's episode is all about the 1981 made-for-TV movie Dark Night of the Scarecrow, which is in a very small and very exclusive list of made-for-TV horror movies that just traumatized the United States.
It was one of those movies that I was lucky enough to have known about it when that Blu-ray came out, because it had been one that had been sought after by every horror person. I mean, there was a Horror Hound issue I remember that they put out in like the early 2010s, I want to say, that was all about like horror titles that were still only on VHS or had never gotten off VHS, and this was a big one that they were wanting to see finally get a release.
Yeah, I actually saw it for the first time on Blu-ray.
Yeah.
Because when it came out, it was such a big deal, and I had been hearing things about Dark Night of the Scarecrow for a very long time.
Yeah.
So
it was one of those movies that I didn't think I was going to like it as much as I ended up loving it, basically.
Why?
I don't know. Like TV movies, I'm a big fan of TV movies. Like, you know this because we've watched a lot together.
Sure.
But at the same time, like, I was kind of a picky bitch again, like we said last week. I was kind of a picky bitch at this point, and
you thought you were too good for the TV movie.
I didn't know if the TV movie was going to be good. I didn't know if the TV movie was going to keep my attention. I didn't know if it was going to be scary, as it had been said.
A movie that's literally made to keep you from changing the channel.
Yeah.
And you were like, I don't know. I mean, what were you like? I don't know. I mean, Trilogy of Terror is freaking lame. Was that your argument?
I hadn't seen Trilogy of Terror yet.
What?
Trilogy of Terror I didn't see until probably 2012.
Jeez, that's wild.
I got the Dark Sky DVD, and that's how I saw it for the first time.
Well, fair enough.
Yeah.
But before we dive into that and also talk about going to the Brimstone Haunt, which we did after last week's episode on Scary Movie 1991, I became enamored and obsessed with going to a haunt.
You did.
And I made that happen.
You did.
But before we get to that, there is an important topic that we need to cover.
Okay.
Very important. In fact, for the first time ever on Do You Even Movie,
yes,
we have B-roll of David in Cleveland, Ohio.
Jesus.
What? Real quick.
And apparently no sound.
No sound?
Oh. Maurice going to
no, we're just not getting it.
Oh, that's weird.
We found your yellow belt.
I was trying so hard to...
Okay, I guess it's mine now.
Trying so hard to make this work.
Yeah.
You got your yellow belt back.
That's how the tea was.
Why was that, David?
Oh, because it was a long freaking car ride. That's why.
Well, for the people who are watching, they're witnessing it. This is what happens when everything is live and also truly horrible. So we'll try. Okay, we're gonna do this. This will work this time.
This time?
Yes. That's a my bad. It has been. I've never done a live switch on the show, but this is David receiving his yellow belt at Cinema Wasteland in Cleveland. So Specs McGee has something for you.
Oh.
And, Maurice is going to deliver it.
Okay.
We found your yellow belt, Dave. Look at that.
Okay, I guess it's mine now.
It's yours now.
It's mine now. Joy.
You got your yellow belt back, Dave.
So,
You finally have your yellow belt.
I was so just not.
You wouldn't even wear it.
I would not wear it. No. For one, it did not go with anything I was wearing.
Yellow and red literally go together.
Nope. No, they do not.
Hulk Hogan would definitely disagree with you
You have
there.
a problem with that, brother?
Yeah, he would. So, no, you're mad? All we wanted to do was reunite you with your yellow
and
belt.
now I have it. So now we can never talk about it again. It's done.
Probably.
Yes.
If you wore it on the show.
I actually meant to grab it tonight, but I forgot.
Hurtful.
Well, I'm sorry. In my defense, I got nothing.
That's fair.
Yeah, I got nothing.
No, it's completely and utterly
No, but
fair.
if anybody's wondering why I look pretty agitated, it wasn't because of the yellow belt. It was because my drive to Cleveland got 45 minutes to an hour extra added to it because it diverted me around Columbus. And because of that, I was on back roads going through 42 and whatnot. Got stuck behind a bunch of semis, got stuck behind a bunch of slow drivers, and also had to pee really bad the entire time during all this, but I didn't want to stop and lose my place in line.
And because of that, you were that grumpy the next day.
That wasn't the next day. That was when I arrived, dude.
I thought that was on Saturday.
No, that was literally when I arrived. Day of.
Okay.
I know for a fact because I was wearing my Frank Zappa shirt.
Okay. I guess I'll have to take your word for it.
Yeah. I mean, you absolutely can.
I don't usually trust David, especially when he's explaining why he's in a bad mood, which is there's always a reason. That's the law of David.
I mean, there should be a reason,
There's
right?
always a reason that he's in a bad mood. October 4th was
Which
that?
is a Friday because it was 4th, 5th, and 6th.
All right, fine. You're right on that one.
No, believe me, I remember. I had just arrived at your table and you said you had a gift for me.
Yeah, well, never again. No gifts for David, everybody. Just remember, if you do something nice for David, he will treat you like a sack of shit.
This is something
So,
nice?
I think so. You
Reuniting?
told a story about how you earned a yellow belt
And then
on the
lost
show
it.
and then lost the yellow belt.
Yeah.
We were trying to make you whole.
You were trying to make me whole.
We were trying to make you
okay.
whole.
Okay. All right. Well,
More than just one friend.
I appreciate it regardless.
Do you?
I do.
Well, beyond that, we did go to the Brimstone Haunt
Yes.
last weekend, shortly after recording.
Yeah.
The next day.
Literally the next
after
day.
recording.
Yeah.
And had a pretty damn good time. Dave is
Yeah.
too good to have a good time. So he was
Had a
just
great
like standing
fucking
with his
time.
arms crossed going like, it's not even scary. You're not even scary. That's what Dave did the whole.
Whereas Henrik
the
was
whole
like,
night. Yeah, because I was scared. Like a good person, you're supposed to be scared. That's the point of going to a haunt.
I think the story we need to tell though is the horror moment that you experienced of me saying that there was nothing wrong in one corner and then there turned out to be a person there that suddenly came to life.
Oh, no, yeah. So at the Brimstone Haunt in Wilmington, Ohio, they have 3 attractions. They have basically one is called
I think they have 4 technically because they had that one we didn't go to because the paintball.
That's not an attraction.
Or not
That's a
an attraction,
midway. That's a game.
Yeah, it's a game. Yeah, you're right.
So they had the Bog, which is a haunted trail.
Yep.
They had a haunted hayride that I'm
hayride.
forgetting
And
what it was called.
Can't think of the first one either. The hayride I think was just called. I feel like it was just called the haunted hayride.
I of course am now forgetting.
It's all good.
But they also had a haunted house, basically. So they
Yeah.
had a house, a trail, and a hayride.
Yeah.
And which is a pretty good way to
Haunted hayride, the Bog, psychosis.
psychosis. Okay.
I want to call
So-
it the psychopath.
Well, that's because that was an old path run
Yeah.
by our friend Tommy Gunn.
Yes, it was.
But so I loved that we got to experience for one price. We got three haunting experiences. And when we were doing the I think it was psychosis.
Psychosis is the first one. Then we did the Bog. Then we ended with the hayride.
Yeah, I'm trying to the one that you brought up.
Oh,
'Cause
that would have been psychosis.
Yeah. Yes,
Yeah.
that was what I was saying.
Yeah.
So literally, like a horror film, we're walking through, the rooms with the flashing lights and the loud music that disorients you. Also, Dave just left the group right at the beginning.
Let me interject here because I was behind. Was I the first one or the last one?
No, at that point, you were the last
I was
one,
the
then
last
you became
one.
the first one.
Yeah, because basically what had happened was you guys had gone into the haunt. I was right behind you guys. I turned a corner and y'all were fucking gone.
Well, Dave didn't notice the person saying, get in the elevator.
I didn't see a person at all.
Well, they were only wearing white.
There was no one there. When I got into the haunt, it was a hallway that was the rest of the haunt, and then you fuckers were gone.
And we didn't run off. We literally just walked up to the guide.
You went to where you were supposed to go.
Yeah, to the guide. And then the guide ushered us into the elevator.
Yeah.
We experienced the elevator, which was really fun.
Yeah.
But then we realized that you weren't there, and we assumed that it was part of the show.
Nope.
No, it was Dave just meandering off on his own.
I was not meandering. I don't know how I got separated. I was right behind Jeff at one point, and then I wasn't.
The woman who was guiding us was also like, I have no idea how he didn't follow us. So that's number one. But the experience that David was mentioning was we went into one of these rooms, and there are all these rooms with hanging bodies and stuff. And there was one body that had like arms up, and it was hanging there. And Dave literally like looks around, and then you turn back to me and you're just kind of like saying something. And as you say that, the body hanging, the one arm just comes down and then the other. Yeah. And it was literally like a horror movie because you're looking away, and now I'm seeing her reveal that she is in fact not a prop.
Yes.
So super, super fun.
Yeah.
Then the bog I was really shocked.
It was so immersive because the bog you start off in this little town, basically. Like you're right outside like a movie theater.
Yeah, there's like a marquee of a movie theater right at the start. Then there's a crashed airplane.
A creature that clicks its mouth.
Well, that was the coolest creature of the entire night. He looked
absolutely.
Truly mortifying.
Yeah.
And as we walked through, the path kept going, going. Because at first I was a little nervous because, I was nervous because it was scary, but I was a little nervous because it seemed like there wasn't a lot going on.
Yeah.
Until I realized that was because we weren't even halfway through.
No, we walked the entire whole side of the park because we started at the same side that you start on Psychosis, and then when you came out of the bog, you were right next to the hayride.
Yeah, we came out on the complete other side of the haunt.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of wandering dark woods. There was a lot of detail in the props that would really grab you.
Yeah.
And I had a really good time with that. But I have to say, I think that the highlight was the hayride.
The hayride, absolutely. Absolutely.
And we were all excited to get on the hayride, David, especially because I've not been on a hayride since I was a child, and they were very scary.
Yep.
Well, in my day, a haunted hayride was you got on the trailer and the tractor would pull you, and like crazy people would like run after you with chainsaws and yell and chase at you and grab at you. Not this one.
Nope.
The haunt actors were immediately jumping right in with us.
We started at a state penitentiary that had like a sign and everything we rolled into. They had people behind the bars, and then they literally just hopped into our hayride out of the bars.
These like psycho prisoner dressed up people were jumping in, and they were blaring death metal, and then they had an execution happening off to the side. It was really, really cool, but that was just the beginning.
Tippy top.
As we start going through this hayride, I know I keep saying, but it was like a horror movie.
Yeah.
And obviously we're trying to make it like a horror movie. But first of all, we passed through a drive-in movie theater. We passed through an old abandoned amusement park.
Auto shop.
Yep.
I mean, what was really cool about it was just you did not know what was going to be around each corner. You could see up ahead, like you're like, oh, okay, that looks like a little bit of a drive-in. It looks like a new building. But then you had people coming out of the cornfield. You had people hanging on the side that would jump onto the wagon.
Oh, yeah. And they would sneak onto the wagon.
Oh, yeah.
People wouldn't even realize you were sitting next to a haunter.
Yeah.
But what really grabbed me was as we're driving along, we hear an engine rev, and it's another tractor.
Yeah.
And it pulls up right behind us, and then just like a horror movie, as soon as it gets like right up to us, it just flips its lights on.
Yep, and honks.
And then it, albeit gently, bumped us a few times, which was really friggin' cool.
Yeah, because then you had the hearse that drove up alongside us as well.
Yes.
The fire truck.
Yes.
I mean, not to mention that you had a bunch of pyrotechnics here and there, too.
Yeah, there were some fire effects and things like that. And then what I think was probably the most impressive, a headless horseman on an actual horse with a human head jack-o'-lantern in his hand. Yeah, it was really,
Super
really
fun.
awesome and just what I needed because I've been working ungodly hours this October to get the 31 days of shows done on Weekly Spooky. And I really needed some Halloween time for me.
I love that we kind of also had to talk Jeff and Keith into it because they were
They just weren't that into it.
they weren't into that, and then it was just like, no, we're doing this basically.
Well, they were willing, but then they weren't into
Yeah.
talking about like where we're gonna go or whatever. But the second we got there, we were having a great time. Although Jeff, our buddy Jeff, immediately reverts to dad mode.
Oh yeah,
Just whenever there was a scary actor, you go, "Oh man, that's that guy that kills people." Yeah, he's a funny bastard.
I would also like to point out that the refreshments and concessions were very well priced as well as delicious.
Yeah, they were good.
Yeah.
I got a soft pretzel and an apple fritter.
And I got this shirt from the shop.
I would have gotten a shirt, but they were out of XL.
Well, I'm sorry about that.
Should have lost weight, I guess. So, they had 2XL, and I was like, I don't want a night shirt.
A night shirt.
Night shirt.
Oh, night shirts.
So anyway, it was a really fun time. If you happen to be in the Dayton, Ohio or Cincinnati area,
Yeah.
I do recommend you check out Brimstone Haunt. It's out by the Renaissance Festival,
Yes.
apparently,
No,
which
it
I
shares the
didn't
same
quite
grounds.
realize.
Yeah, it shares the same grounds almost.
Yeah, well, they have a gargantuan tract of land
Oh,
out there.
yeah.
So anyway, that was our Halloween fun. You're welcome that I made us all do that. Because Dave was like, I don't know, I was just thinking I was going to sit around and be mad.
No, what I said
I
was
think that's what you said.
What I specifically said was because I had not had a refund yet for my hotel room for Cleveland was that I did not know if I had haunt money yet. And luckily I did have haunt money.
They take normal money too.
Oh, they do? I didn't know this.
Yeah, not just boo bucks.
That's just boo bucks. Are you ready to get into it?
No! Yeah, of course. I mean, unfortunately, there was not a horror film for us to see this week.
No, but Saturday night, I would give it 4 out of 5 stars.
Oh, yeah, Saturday night was pretty damn fun.
Yeah.
The Saturday Night Live origin story, I guess.
Yeah, I'm going to read into that to see how much of that all happened.
Well, I mean, obviously, I think they made it very clear that it didn't actually all happen in an hour and a half.
No.
I think that was very
I think that
obvious.
was all from the initial. I can't even think of the word. I'm blanking right now. Anyway,
from the time they started developing the show.
Yes, development. That was the word I couldn't think of.
Okay. Well, we're starting off on a good track.
We are.
No more words.
So we're talking about Dark Night of the Scarecrow from 1981, 1 hour and 36 minutes, rated TV 14.
Ah, yes. Well, that's weird. They didn't have TV 14.
That's what it says on IMDb.
Oh, I mean, but the TV ratings, the TV 14, TV MA,
Yeah.
TVG, PD, those are all self-ascribed.
Yeah.
They are not in any way overseen by anybody.
No.
I know because when I first started putting my films on streaming, I found out that they were self-designations. So I used them to help get my stuff through streaming.
There you go.
And then they'd be like, well, where did you get this certification? I'd be like, look it up. There's none.
Yeah.
You're the ones who accept it.
Yeah.
It's not my fault.
Not my fault. So I guess it's rated viewer discretion advised at that point then.
I mean, I guess. I mean, they didn't have ratings for TV shows back then.
No.
It was on broadcast, so there was no swearing, no nudity, no blood, really.
No.
It was meant for families to watch.
Yeah.
It aired in October of 1981.
That is correct.
So, but I mean, TV 14 would probably be a fair rating for it today.
I would say
for
so.
sure.
Director of the film is Frank De Felitta, and he gets his start as a writer in 1953 with Your Jeweler's Showcase. Goes on to write for The Tales of Tomorrow in 52, Plymouth Playhouse in 53, Medallion Theater in 53, Armstrong Circle Theater in 54, Suspense in 54, Matinee Theater in 57, Witchcraft in 61, The Savage is Loose, Audrey Rose in 77, The Entity in 82, which he has a novel and screenplay credit for, Killer in the Mirror in 86, and The Penthouse in 89. He doesn't get his directing and writing starting until 61, which was when he did Assignment Underwater, followed by The DuPont Show of the Week in 62, The Stately Ghosts of England in 65, Doberman Patrol in 73, The Worlds of Jenny Logan in 79, Scissors in 91. He unfortunately did pass in March 29th of 2016 at age 94 from dementia.
Wow. He lived a long time.
Our writer on the film is J.D. Feigelson. He, writer and director on The Windsplitter in 1971, One of the Missing in 79, Twilight Zone in 85, Dark Night of the Scarecrow in 81, of course, and then he's a writer, of course, in 1973 with Horror High, Dark Night of the Scarecrow 81, Cry for the Strangers 82, Chiller in 85, Convent in 85, Nightmare on the 13th Floor in 1990, The Lake in 1998, that Yasmin Bleeth movie I've always talked about.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and Red Water in 2003, the
Oh,
TBS
okay.
shark movie,
Yeah, shit.
which I think has Lou Diamond Phillips in it, if I'm not mistaken.
I mean, it better.
Another writer on the film is Butler Hancock. His only credit is the story for Dark Knight of the Scarecrow in 81. And then our cinematographer is Vincent A. Martinelli. He gets to start as camera and electrical department for The Fugitive in 67. He was assistant camera on that. The Invisible Man in 75. He was the camera operator. Helter Skelter in 73 or 76.
Makes sense. I mean, that was a TV movie as well.
Camera op on that. And Shadow Chase in 85. He doesn't get his director of photography credit until 76 with Gemini Man, followed by Riding with Death in 76, Quincy M.E. in 77, Bionic Woman in 77, Mandrake in 79, Samurai in 79, The Amazing Spider-Man in 78, Spider-Man the Dragon's Challenge in 79, Captain America 2, Death Too Soon in 79, The Seekers in 79, Incredible Hulk in 1980, Race to the Wind in 1980, Enos in 81, Dark Knight of the Scarecrow in 81, The Quest in 82, Whiz Kids in 84, Amazing Stories in 87, Simon & Simon in 83, and Major Dad in 89. He unfortunately passed March 5th of 2010, age 76, no death cause listed.
Well, that usually means natural causes.
Yeah, natural causes.
Yeah.
Well, there's unfortunately, gotta go ahead and preface this episode. Unfortunately, with this film, not a lot of people left alive who worked on it or were in it.
Well, except the writer.
Yeah, the
who
writer.
is so alive he made a sequel.
Two people, basically, from what I could tell from what IMDb had said as well.
Well, most of the characters are older in the film, and it's 81.
Yeah.
So, which was a long time ago.
Well, perfect example, like when I give our cast here in a little bit, none of them are alive anymore.
Even the little girl?
Well, I'm saying the ones that I name.
Oh, yeah, I forget.
Yeah.
Remember, we found out recently Dave doesn't consider women a part of projects.
Shut the fuck up.
What?
Taglines.
The director of photography.
Taglines for the film include the original classic. What has this girl done in the drive? What has this girl done that is driving the town mad? What is the terrible act people are about to commit? And who is the only person who can save her?
That sounds like such a tagline from a newspaper back in the day.
Other tagline, an all new chiller for Halloween.
That definitely makes sense.
And last, there is other justice besides the law.
Well, this is a TV movie, so it didn't have like traditional posters or traditional marketing. It would have had commercials.
Yeah.
Tons and tons of commercials.
IMDb synopsis says, in a small southern town, 4 vigilantes wrongfully execute a mentally challenged man, but after the court sets them free, mysterious accidents begin to kill them off one by one.
That's a pretty solid description.
My synopsis, when 4 vigilantes who wrongfully kill a mentally challenged man are set free by the courts, all 4 men begin to find themselves being picked off one by one in strange accidents.
That was basically
the exact same thing.
Okay. Well, I mean, you can't get much more accurate than that. It's not a complicated film.
It's not. The cast includes Charles Durning, who plays Otis Hazelrig in it. 217 credits on his resume, by the way.
I believe that.
So Durning gets his start in 1953 with You Are There, The Defenders in 63, NYPD in 67, Hi Mom in 1970, The Pursuit of Happiness 71, Sisters in 72, The Sting, Dog Day Afternoon, Breakheart Pass, The Choir Boys, The Fury in 78, The Muppet Movie in 79, When a Stranger Calls in 79 as well.
Oh, okay.
The Final Countdown in 1980, True Confessions in 81, Dark Knight of the Scarecrow 81, Sharky's Machine in 81, Best Little Whorehouse in Texas in 82, Tootsie in 82, Scarface, Death of a Salesman, Stand Alone in 85.
Oh, okay.
That movie that we watched where he's the badass.
Oh, I love that movie.
Yeah.
That is the most that morbidly obese old man just slaughters everybody.
Oh, yeah.
No problemo. And he's the hero.
He's the hero. He literally says at one point, I am death.
Yeah. No, and he sure was.
He sure was.
That movie was nuts.
Amazing Stories in 85, Cop in 88, Dick Tracy in 1990, When a Stranger Calls Back in 93, Hudsucker Proxy in 94, IQ in 94, The Last Supper in 95, Home for the Holidays in 95, Oh Brother Where Art Thou, State and Maine in 2000. He unfortunately passed in December 24th of 2012, natural causes at 89.
I lived a long life.
Yeah, he did. Moving on down to our list, Lane Smith, who plays Harless Hawker in the film, 122 credits.
They are definitely this movie is like a soup du jour of character actors of that era.
Absolutely. Gets his start in 66 with Unholy Matrimony, Kojak in 75, Rooster Cogburn in 75, Network in 76, The Bad News Bears and Breaking Training in 77, Blue Collar in 78, The Rockford Files, Over the Edge, Prince of the City in 81, Dark Knight of the Scarecrow, Purple Heart, Red Dawn, Amazing Stories, Twilight Zone, Prison in 87, Night Game, Air America, My Cousin Vinny in 92.
Of course.
Identical. The Mighty Ducks in 92, Son-in-Law in 93, The War at Home in 96.
Yes, that's where I remember him the most is from The War at Home. He was like that, you old fart.
You old fart. Why don't you cut your damn self, you old fart? Walker, Texas Ranger in 1999, King of the Hill in 2000. Lane Smith unfortunately passed away June 13th, 2005 at age 69, lateral sclerosis.
Ouch.
Yeah. And moving on down is Larry Drake, who plays Bubba in the film. He gets his start in 1971 with The Stuff Will Kill Ya, Date with a Kidnapper in 76, Battle Creek Brawl in 1980, Dark Knight of the Scarecrow 81, The Karate Kid in 84, Hunter in 87, Werewolf the TV series in 88, Tales from the Crypt in 89, Darkman, Dr. Giggles, LA Law, Darkman 2, The Return of Durant, Outer Limits, The Beast, Bean, Batman Beyond, Star Trek Voyager, American Pie 2, 6 Feet Under, Firefly, Seventh Heaven, Boston Legal, and Dead Air in 2009. We unfortunately lost Larry Drake in 2016, March 17th, at age 67 to blood cancer.
Yeah, he passed away not that long ago. He was pretty much royalty in the horror world. Did you ever get to meet him? Huh?
Did you ever get to meet him?
No, I did not.
I got to meet him, I want to say it would have had to have been like 2013 or 2014, I think at Days of the Dead. He saw my Dr. Giggles, and very nice guy. I was really happy to talk to him. We talked to him about Darkman and Dr. Giggles, and it was a lot of fun just chatting him up.
I've never heard a negative thing about him.
No.
And I'll never be able to separate him from Durant, Robert G. Durant.
At this time, Dark Knight of the Scarecrow is currently available on AMC Plus, Peacock, Pluto, Roku, Tubi, and also available on Blu-ray from VCI. I think also, did it get a 4K or is it getting a 4K soon?
I don't know. And it was also on Shudder because we
Shudder.
Literally watched it
AMC Plus.
on Shudder.
Yeah, that's AMC Plus.
They're not
Shudder.
always the same.
They are on IMDb apparently.
Well, I'm just telling you, they're not always the same.
Yeah. First time watching the film, what was it like for you, sir?
Well, I had heard about it many, many times from my buddy Andy. He loved Dark Knight of the Scarecrow. He would always kind of pontificate about how creepy it was, how scary it was. And I had dabbled a little bit in the made-for-TV horror space with, what was it called?
Are You in the House Alone?
Are You in the House Alone? Thank you.
Yep.
With that one and The Initiation of Sarah.
Yep.
And I found those to be pretty damn creepy. Now, Are You in the House Alone is really not a horror movie in the traditional
Thriller.
sense. It's much more a thriller drama about a woman who's abused by popular kids in her neighborhood. They're all like, seniors in high school, and then terrorized for standing up. But it's a made-for-TV movie. It's actually kind of much more of an after-school special type of thing. So the whole point of that film, spoiler alert, it came out like 50 fucking years ago. But so, I mean, one of the major points of that film is that she does testify against a powerful guy.
Do you remember who it is?
Isn't it Quaid?
Dennis Quaid. Yeah.
It would have been better if it had been Randy Quaid, but Dennis Quaid works in a pinch.
But Dennis Quaid, the super young role.
Yeah, he's supposed to be playing 18, so it makes perfect sense. But that film is very scary, but it's not, like I said, a traditional horror movie. It's a drama. It's a torn from the headlines story about bravery and courage and very poignant of its time period because it's about women standing up against powerful men when they harm them and things like that.
Yeah.
Very good film.
Fantastic.
So with those that I had seen and maybe one or two others, and Trilogy of Terror was another one that's famously scary, made for TV movie. When this came out on Blu-ray, I was like, oh, now is the time. So I snatched it right up the week it came out. And I remember, because this was so long ago, I didn't even have a TV in my living room.
Yeah.
So I remember getting cozy in my bedroom after getting off of work, putting in the disc and watching it, right next to my big screen TV and just being so deeply creeped out by the atmosphere of the film. The way it's shot is truly wonderful. I'm honestly shocked that the director of photography didn't have, for lack of a better way of putting it, more artful stuff.
Yeah.
He mostly did TV
stuff.
Well, he was damn good.
Yeah.
Because this film, especially now being able to watch it fully remastered on 35 millimeter film.
Yeah.
It's shocking how good it looks.
It looks incredible.
And how deep and rich the photography is, because it was scanned to probably, if it was 81, it was probably not pneumatic, but basically 1-inch tape. And it would not have looked amazing. It would have looked probably good, though. It probably would have looked grainy and weird and eerie. But man, I remember when it was over and I was kind of chilled and I was like, man, that was really creepy. All I could think was like, my God, if I had been like 7 years old and my family were like, well, let's gather around the TV set. There's a spooky movie for Halloween. And then it was that. Woof.
Yeah.
Because the film goes from being very slice of life to brutal to kind of ghastly and then kind of dreamy.
Yeah.
It really bounces around in a very interesting way that definitely left me going, damn, no wonder people like to say this film scarred them.
Traumatized them.
Yeah, no wonder.
Yeah.
So, but what about you, David?
So this was kind of, like I said earlier, this was like a white whale due to its popularity, but it was not very readily available. So when that Blu-ray DVD came out in 2010, I believe that my uncle had burned me a copy of it, and that was the first time I actually got to see it. Was in the annual Halloween package he would share me.
Okay.
Or send me. And I popped it in not knowing what to expect. I was kind of looking forward to it, but also was prepared for it to not be as great as people had told me.
Wow.
I know. I was a little shit back then. It's fine.
Back then.
Shut up. So, obviously blew all expectations away. It had really like scary parts to it. I love the theme to it. The music in it is really eerie.
Yeah, definitely.
Even watching it with you tonight just now, the cinematography in it, some of the shots of, especially some of the attack sequences or the haunting sequences are really, really well put to the screen because there's just certain lighting elements to it and everything. It was one of those movies that I immediately knew that like this was going to be an October staple for me. So I was really, really happy when I got my own copy. I got to meet J.D. Feigelson when I got my copy and he signed it actually. So it's one of those movies that I think you really have to give it the chance because you will not be disappointed, I don't think, at all with it.
Yes. And I wanted to double check. Dark Knight of the Scarecrow is available in 4K as a double feature with part 2.
Yep.
Which we'll talk about a little bit later, but it was made recently.
Yeah.
And it was written and directed by the gentleman who wrote the original screenplay, who has since regained all of his rights to the film, which I do think is friggin' awesome that he was able to do that, even if the film was okay. But I don't know how the hell he could have knocked it out of the park when you have a film like Dark Knight of the Scarecrow that not only has great cinematography, legendary character actors, a pretty damn high budget. I mean, those TV movies were made for a few $1 million often because, I mean, you have to think about back then when there was only network television. I mean, it was worth millions of dollars to entertain people for 2 hours.
Yeah.
Because you'd have friggin' a third of America watching.
Yeah.
So they had everything going for that first one. And then on top of that, nostalgia to make it that much sweeter.
Yeah.
Then you have part 2, which is a B movie.
It's fine if I remember correctly.
It wasn't terrible, but I'm just saying like the fact that you have to compare them.
Yeah.
Because it's a sequel. I actually think it might have been kinder if it was a remake.
It really would have.
People would have been kinder to it, but it's just so hard to follow and act like that.
Yeah.
Especially when a film has nostalgia, because that's something you can't buy it, you can't plan for it. In fact, one of the things about Dark Knight of the Scarecrow that I think makes it so effective is it looks even older than it is.
Yeah, same. I was thinking the same thing.
When I think back to it, I never think it's from the 80s. I always think it's from the mid-70s.
70s, yeah.
But it's not. It's absolutely from 1981.
Yeah.
So, and I think that a lot of that has to do with it taking place in a rural town, with it having older actors in it who were in themselves actors from an older era.
Yeah.
You have a lot of those elements and also kind of that small towns have big secrets mentality that was really amping up in the 70s as a story point, both in books and movies and TV shows. So, man, I kind of want to buy that 4K.
For $23, that's not bad.
Yeah, $24 after tax. Dave doesn't pay his taxes.
Oh, shut up.
So,
but no, I think honestly too, what really caught my attention with Dark Knight of the Scarecrow was just seeing Charles Durning play a bad guy because I was used to him not doing that.
See, and I mentioned to you earlier, like I have the opposite because I first really recognized him from Dark Knight of the Scarecrow.
Yeah.
So when he would pop up and be the kindly old man down the road, I'd be like,
I don't
that
trust
motherfucker
it.
killed Bubba.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But Bubba didn't do it.
But Bubba didn't do it.
So you ready to get into it?
Why the hell not?
All right. So we open as we are in a nice field and we meet Bubba, who is playing with a little girl, Mary Lee, in the field. They're picking flowers. They're singing songs. It's a nice day out.
It's actually like fucking beautiful.
Oh, it's beautiful.
They're in a field full of flowers.
Yeah.
And Bubba is what we might call touched.
Yes.
That's the word.
That's the word.
That's the word my mama would have used when I was a young boy.
Yeah.
He is slow.
We learn he's 36.
Yeah, I'm 38. Look, have you looked at those photos where people say like here are 18-year-olds in 1981 and they look like they're 35?
Yeah.
There's a little bit of that and a little bit of I'm sure he was older than that.
Yeah.
And a little bit of Larry Drake is an odd-looking guy.
He is.
So, but he's perfect for this role because one thing I think Larry Drake can do very well is kind of like Michael Berryman.
Okay.
Although Michael Berryman from The Hills Have Eyes,
Yeah,
he has a skin condition where he has no hair and no fingernails.
Correct.
And his head is kind of an odd shape. They both look off-putting.
Mm-hmm.
Larry Drake obviously more like just kind of because he has big teeth, big eyes, kind of whatever. And they can both completely disarm you with how they speak.
Yeah.
They can both come off as extremely tender if they want to. If they're acting.
Yeah.
So when you see them in a role, like you don't see Larry Drake get to be tender very often.
No.
And when he starts talking to this little girl and she makes him a lei out of flowers, but then when she wants to when she gives it to him, she says, you have to get a kiss because that is the law in Hawaii. You get a kiss on the cheek with your lei. And he's like, no. But it's in no way creepy or adult. It literally is like a little boy who's a little afraid of girls.
Yeah. It's perfect.
It's really, truly perfect. And him sitting there in his overalls, just being a big country kid.
Yeah.
It's really a gorgeous moment.
It's a great introduction to the character, and to both characters, honestly.
Yeah,
because
I would agree.
You see that they're the best of friends, and even though there's the difference in between the two, that there's nothing weird between them. It's all wholesome and really cute.
Yeah, and also sad.
And very sad. Yeah,
this is his only friend, and one day she'll grow up like probably all of his friends.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, but I could get very sentimental very quickly.
I gotcha.
Do you?
So we also see that Otis, played by Charles Durning, is across the field watching them with binoculars, and he does not like what he is seeing.
No, he does not. He is positive that Bubba is a I was going to say pedophile, but I think better word would be pervert.
Pervert, yeah, pervert.
He feels like, and there's a whole subtext where it seems like the reason he thinks Bubba is a pervert is because he's kind of a pervert.
Yeah.
But I think I know because like the way you reacted when I said your eyes got really big, I really think it was subtext though.
No, I think it was too. That was one thing I picked up on. We'll get to it later in the movie when we talk about it. But there's like two instances where it's mentioned, like where people are just like, why are you so concerned and everything?
Yeah, why do you care so much about all this? And I think that's because there's a lot of what I like to call ghastliness, which is when especially in older movies, we don't get this as much now, but Poe was really big on the ghastly element of horror.
Yeah.
The idea that like after you've killed someone, there's this thick dread and guilt that just permeates everything.
Yeah.
This movie has lots of that. And I love to call it ghastly horror because it's a reality of the crime.
Yeah.
And we don't get that a lot in modern stuff anymore.
No.
It's a little bit like we're too desensitized. We have way too much out and out murder in our films.
And one thing I love about this movie in particular is the small town vibe to it, because that makes everybody know everybody.
Yes.
So there's no secrets even when there's a big one.
Yeah, no, exactly. Well, there are really no secrets.
Yeah.
Which plays into later why they don't even know who to think is coming after them.
Yeah.
So anyway, I digress, but the characterizations are really good here. Also, it falls into that trope of having 3 or 4 guys who commit a heinous crime and having like the one who keeps everyone in line and the one who's scared they're going to get caught and the one who was never really on board to begin with.
Nope. So we see Otis driving to town, and he is talking to Harris Hawker, who is his buddy, and he's basically saying that they need to do something about Bubba because he's hanging out with that Mary Lee girl. He's no good. You know, we need to do something about it. And Harless says that he can kick him around a little bit and scare him, but that's really about where he's comfortable leaving it at.
Yeah, yeah, and again, you know, that's the country living.
That's
like,
country living.
We can bully the mentally challenged kid, but we can't
do anything.
Can't like hurt him.
Yeah. So we see Bubba and Mary Lee walking home from a field, and she catches sight that one of the neighbors has a new fountain in their yard as she's peeking through a fence, and she's like, you know, well, we should go look at it. And Bubba's like, oh, no, I don't want to go. She realizes that one of the boards is loose, so she goes over to the fence, and she's like, okay, well, you stay here. I'm just going to go play in the fountain. So Bubba watches her play in the fountain for a little bit, and then a dog comes out, and it is snarling, it is growling, and it wastes no time going after her.
Yeah, well, she's in his yard.
Yeah.
So, and Bubba doesn't know what to do, so he busts through the fence to rescue her from this mean dog.
And we don't see what's going on. We just hear the biting, we hear her screaming, and we saw Bubba break through the fence, and that's the last of it.
Yes.
So then so that's when we cut to a woman in the kitchen. She's going about, and she hears a knock on her door. She answers the door, and we find out this is Mary Lee's mother, because on the other side of the door is Bubba holding a lifeless body of Mary Lee that's bloody. He's bloody too, and all he is doing is saying tearfully, "Bubba didn't do it."
Yeah. Well, and he's not very verbal.
No.
That's something I glossed over when I was going on and on about their interactions.
Yeah.
But he could basically say like no and yes and maybe like a couple of other things, but he's not extremely verbal.
No, he can do about like 5 words each sentence, it feels like.
Yeah. He's not super verbal, so him saying Bubba didn't do it is the best he's got.
Yeah. So Harless rushes to the post office to tell Otis about the incident, and Otis is like, I told you this is going to happen. So he wastes no time. He closes up his office, he grabs his pistol, and he tells Harris to get the dogs and the guns because we are going after Bubba. So we see a mob assemble as they drive out to Bubba's, and we've got his buddy Skeeter, his buddy Philby, and Harless with them, and they are all armed, and they got their dogs, and they're ready to basically get blood at this point.
I got to ask your parents at some point why the hell they didn't name you Skeeter.
I always think of Doug's friend.
We all need a buddy named Skeeter.
Is that the fact?
Yes.
So we also see Bubba racing home through the field at this point. So the mob's closing in on him. Bubba makes it to his mama's door, and she answers it, and she's trying to console him, but of course he's hysteric. You know, I didn't do it, and you know, as Henrique said, he's not very verbal, but he's hysteric at this point and trying to basically say that he's innocent. And his mom 100% believes him because she knows her son.
Well, she knows that he's a delicate person. He would never hurt anything.
Yeah. So she tells him that he's a good boy and no one's going to hurt him and that they're going to play the hiding game just like last time.
Which also suggests why his first words were Bubba didn't do it.
Yeah.
Because he's clearly been a scapegoat for the town's ills.
Yeah.
Because people have come looking for him before.
Yeah.
And he had a special hiding place that no one was able to find him. And it's kind of brilliant.
It really is.
So anyway.
So Bubba remembers, and he says that he can hide, he can play it real good. Otis goes to call for Bubba as he arrives up front of his house, and that's when Miss Ritter emerges, and she's, like, what do you do on my property? And Otis tells him it's official business, and she states that he wouldn't hurt anybody, especially children, because he's no older in his head. She also adds that he isn't here. And Otis is like, I don't know if I believe you. Like, let's see what the dogs say. And the dogs, they start picking up a scent, and Otis warns her that she's obstructing justice, but she argues it's her property as she slams the door.
And he's not a cop.
No.
He's a fucking postal worker.
Post office. Yeah.
He's a goddamn postal worker.
So the dogs pick up a scent, and they head towards the field, and they wander out to a lone Scarecrow, and Otis believes the dogs are mistaken until he approaches the Scarecrow, and the camera being brilliant in its movement, at first we see nothing in the eyes. It's black, there's nothing behind the eyes, and then as Otis gets closer, Bubba is clearly behind the mask.
Yeah, we see him looking terrified, shaking because he's holding his breath.
Yeah.
Eyes super wide. It's one of the most memorable images of the entire film, and it's in the first 6 or 7 minutes.
Yeah.
It's so scary because then we realize, of course no one ever found him before because he was hiding inside of a scarecrow.
Yeah.
Which is a brilliant move, especially for someone who has the mind of a child.
Yeah.
To go hide in a scarecrow.
And it's a creepy looking scarecrow, mind you, too.
What's a scarecrow you've seen that was either not scary or even sexy?
The Wizard of Oz.
the speed at which you answered that makes me proud and worried.
And worried?
Yeah.
Good.
Give me your car keys. You're not driving out of here like this.
I live in Troy. There's too many scarecrows. Don't worry about it.
I'm married. I'm married. Why is he yelling I'm married at that scarecrow? Joy, just go back to your own business. That's just the Denoyer boy.
God, I need to revisit Pearl. It's been a while. So the men draw their weapons as Otis takes aim. At first, he fires the first shot, and then they fire along with him. And we also find out that they've ended up firing 21 shots.
Yeah, it's straight up 20 or 21.
21, I think is what they said.
It's straight up a firing squad. He is up on a cross, basically.
Yeah.
And he's just getting blasted away. And after they've shot him to death, they get a call over his radio.
Over the radio, over Hollis's radio.
Yeah. And find out that the little girl is not dead. But they had said flat, they were like, she's dead.
Yeah, she's dead.
She's dead. He brought her dead body over.
Yeah.
They find out not only is she not dead, she is alive, awake, and telling everybody that Bubba saved her life.
Yeah.
And this is the first ghastly moment of the film. It's that moment where they all look at each other because they realize that what they did was just murder.
Yeah.
And of course, our main antagonist, our mailman, our happy-go-lucky mailman, is ardent that they still did the right thing because, like, even if he didn't hurt her, he would have one day, or he already has hurt kids or something. So he concocts a plan to set him up that is so stupid.
So thin.
Well, nothing about him is thin. So
R.I.P. Charles Durning.
I felt so bad for that little car he was driving around when he would get out of it. I was like, damn, those shocks are good. Must have been made in Detroit City.
Oh, God.
So, come on, he's a big fat guy. He was a great actor.
Yeah.
And he's perfect in this role.
He absolutely is.
But so he decides to put a pitchfork in Bubba's dead hands.
But he can't get it to hold. He can't get the hands to hold it too.
It's almost like he's dead.
Yeah, weird.
They get him to basically hold this pitchfork so that they can suggest that Bubba, who had no history of violence whatsoever, came at them with a pitchfork, and they were just at four men with guns.
Self-defense.
On his own property.
Self-defense.
And that they had to unload on him. I mean, if each of them had shot him once, it would be vaguely believable.
Yeah.
If each of them had shot him once, but they all just unleashed the fucking beast on him.
They really do.
It was really gruesome.
Yeah.
So he puts the damn pitchfork on him in the Scarecrow outfit, and they're like, well, now the long dick of the law will fuck somebody, right?
And then you said the ghastliness. We start to get a thing that occurs in the town now. A wind is blowing through the town.
Yes.
Fiercely.
Yes. And the wind becomes symbolic of something going on.
Yeah.
Which I love that simplicity.
Yeah.
There's a wind, whether we see it or we hear it, the wind starts blowing through this town. And this next part is super torn from headlines.
Oh, yeah.
Because, we're in 81, so we're not that far removed from Jim Crow.
No.
We're not that far removed from segregation. And we're not that far removed from towns that just plain did not protect the rights of certain citizens.
Individuals, yes.
Whether they be black flavor or brown flavor. Or simply gay flavor.
That is also true.
I don't know why I went with flavor, but I stand by it.
You stand by it.
Hey, you know what?
So we cut to a courtroom where the men are on trial, obviously, for the murder of Bubba. We see Otis is on the stand as the prosecutor argues that they were vigilantes. They were men that had no right, and the defense throws the pitchfork down, arguing that Bubba was armed.
Bubba was armed on his own property.
Yep. So the prosecutor states that Bubba might as well have had a feather duster against the mob. Otis lies and says that they did everything they could to not hurt him, but they had to defend themselves, and the prosecutor states that Bubba had 21 bullet wounds in him. The judge then calls the counsel to the stand and tells them that due to no evidence or witnesses from the prosecution, he's ruling in favor of the men.
And I want to laugh, but I really know that this is based on
something
on many stories of these little towns protecting their own and having no problem hurting people that they deem outsiders.
Yeah.
And Bubba's mom's reaction to this kangaroo court is really, really sad. But I love one of my favorite characters who's not even in the movie this much is the prosecutor.
Yeah, Sam, the DA.
Because he is literally just straight up like, you guys killed him.
Yeah.
You guys murdered a mentally challenged man on purpose. And when they're all getting ready to leave, and he basically tells them, like, if I find one shred of evidence, you're all going to death row.
Death row, it's happening.
Which I thought was just like, damn. Like, he is lit up. Of course, the guys are just kind of like, eh.
Yeah.
And at one point, he's looking at his watch, and that's one of my
Charles Durning, yeah.
One of my favorite lines is he looks at his watch and says, I'm sorry, am I keeping you? He's like, well, just want to see what time it is because down at the boarding house where I live, it's fried chicken night.
Yeah.
And everybody kind of laughs, and then we smash cut to them all drinking at the bar, having a good old time because these good old boys got away with murder.
And I love this shot because we're not in the bar. We are right outside the bar. We see the exterior of it, and then we just go down the street, and that wind is blowing fiercely, knocking over trash cans, making all kinds of ruckus. And then we cut over to Mary Lee. We see that her mother peeks in on her in her bedroom, and she tells her husband that the past 2 weeks have frightened so much. Also, we find out that Mary Lee has no idea about Bubba's demise yet.
Yeah, she's been on bed rest.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, they said that she had no running, no playing, no TikTok.
No TikTok.
So,
Yes.
Because otherwise she would have seen people doing the Bubba's Dead
The Bubba's
challenge.
Dead dance.
The Bubba didn't do it challenge.
God damn it.
They're just...
So Frank, her husband, states to tell her nothing and let it lie. God damn you. And back in her room, Mary Lee awakens and she's looking out the window and she calls Bubba. She leaves out of her window. She leaves out through the window and goes over to his house, finds his window, knocks on it, calls him again, but of course there's no answer. So then she enters the home and starts walking around, goes up the stairs, and that's when Mrs. Ritter comes out and she's like, child, what are you doing over here? Like, you're going to freeze to death. Like, what are you doing? Let's go down here by the fireplace. And that's when Mary Lee asks, where's Bubba? And Mrs. Ritter basically has to break it down to her in like the simplest way possible and basically says that he's not here, he's not coming back. And Mary Lee is like, okay, well, he's probably hiding. I'll go find him. And runs out of the house and she chases after her, but it's no use. So she finds her out in the field and she's singing, she's sitting in the spot where they play. And that's when Mary Lee tells her, don't worry, Bubba's just playing the hiding game.
But something worth mentioning.
Okay.
This is the first truly scary scene in the film. I mean, before this, we had a lot of suspense. We had a lot of horror elements. But when she wanders to Bubba's house, the blue light bathing over everything as the wind is blowing tree branches around, this is what makes this film work.
Yeah.
It's from 1981. It's a TV movie. TV movies were always kind of old-fashioned compared to the films in theaters because they were made for a mass market and generally an older market. I mean, before Roger Corman basically started making teenage movies, nobody ever made movies for young people.
Yeah.
So, and that was in the 60s.
It was.
So, my point is, these sequences of the farmland bathed in moonlight, the wind blowing, the music swelling, a little girl in her nightgown walking up to an empty, dark house, coming inside the house, the Bubba's mother finding her, all of that. It is so creepy. It is slow paced in what I would say is the best possible way.
Absolutely.
And that's why this film is a scary horror movie and why it's a great Halloween time movie, because in my opinion, and I think most people would agree, maybe not you because you suck, but
thanks. Bud.
No, I mean, it's important to first rule of comedy: no Dave sucks. No, but it's about getting that Halloween feeling from the atmosphere.
Yeah. Because
you may be sitting at home, you may have one jack-o'-lantern, you may not have a Halloween party to go to, you may not have a haunted hayride to go on, but you can put on John Carpenter's Halloween.
Yeah.
And it is Halloween in Haddonfield, and you're a part of it. You can put on Murder Party, and you are in New York City on Halloween night, and you were stupid enough to show up for the Murder Party.
For Murder Party.
Any of these films gives you that. And it's the exact same thing with Christmas.
Yeah.
I could tell you some really sad Christmas stories in my life where the thing that kept me going was Kevin McAllister's Christmas tree.
Yeah.
Because at least when I watched Home Alone, I felt like I had a Christmas of my own when I did not have one. So that's kind of my point. That's why I personally seek out event films. That's why at Thanksgiving, I want the Thanksgiving movies. At Christmas, I want the Christmas movies. And at Halloween, I want the Halloween movies.
Yeah.
It's that element. And being in a small, sleepy, wheat-ridden town in the middle of America in fall with cold winds and stalks of corn and scarecrows. I mean, how much better do you get?
Yeah.
And then later there's a Halloween party. There's a Halloween dance.
Yeah.
Like, this is so good. And if you haven't seen this film, we haven't spoiled much.
No.
So if you haven't watched this film yet, stop what you're doing and go to Tubi and watch it. It's 94 minutes of your life that you will be very happy you gave up to a little TV movie that no one ever forgot.
No.
Anyway, sorry, I just had to get that across.
No, perfect. So the next morning, we see Otis is on his mail route. We also see that Philby is at work at his feed silo, and also Otis drives out to Harless's house as he's working on his wood chipper. His wife informs him that they got an invite to the church's Halloween party, and also asking if he started planting. And he's like, well, no, I'm working on this. Like, why would I be planting? She's like, well, I didn't know otherwise why you would plant a scarecrow. And that's when Harless stops, looks out into the field, and we see a scarecrow in the field resembling Bubba. So Harless races over to the local restaurant where he finds Skeeter and Philby enjoying their beers. Like, they invite him over, and he confronts them. He's like, what the hell are you guys thinking? Like, that's not funny. And they're like, we have no idea what you're talking about. And he's like, well, there's a scarecrow in my yard. And they're like, we did not do it. So they both deny they had nothing to do with it. So now we're at the boarding house, and Otis sits in his room enjoying a drink. A small drink, because we find out that to the public, he does not drink.
Yes. It seems to me that what I gathered from multiple watchings is that he has this aura of righteousness.
Pureness.
Because he doesn't drink. I think maybe, if I'm looking into subtext, maybe he had a drinking problem that was very public. And that's why people have a kind of an opinion of him.
Yeah.
So him not drinking is his way of saving face. Being like, I don't drink, but then when he's alone, he's drinking. Or it could be that, I mean, and maybe you have a thought on this, or it could be that I'm completely overreading, and in reality, he's just simply drinking to deal with the reality of what he did.
That's kind of what I was thinking, but at the same time, we are 2 weeks past it, so I mean, it would still be.
I mean, how long does it usually take you to get over a murder?
I mean, I'm on week 4 right now.
Oh, okay. That's not too. I mean, that's pretty good, rookie numbers, but
you gotta get those numbers up.
No, get those numbers down. You need to be forgetting about it 3 weeks in, man. It needs to be, yeah.
So he's enjoying his drink on his bed, and that's when he gets a knock from the woman who owns the boarding house telling him he has visitors. And we immediately see that he's uneasy about that. And we find out why, because he goes downstairs and there's Harless, Skeeter, and Philby. And immediately he's like, oh, gentlemen, nice to see you. And he's like, can this wait? Like, I think dinner's about to be ready. And they're like, we need to talk to you right now.
Yeah, and I think one of the reasons he hates seeing them is because they remind him of the crime.
Well, I think they're being seen together in general is not a good idea.
Well, because it reminds people of what they did. But I also think that there is a degree of guilt he feels, for sure.
Absolutely.
I think that guilt kind of drives him to become crazier.
Yeah. So they go up to his room, and that's when they tell him about the Scarecrow sighting in Harless's pasture. And Otis suspects that it's Sam, the district attorney, and he tells them to keep their lips sealed because this is probably exactly what Sam wanted, was them all to come over here, and now it looks guilty by association, and that they are never to return to the boarding house ever again.
And here's where this becomes a solid TV movie thriller.
Yeah.
Because now it's a whodunit, or who's doing it.
Who's doing it, yeah.
And that is the kind of thing that keeps you, sitting through the commercials for Jell-O pudding pops and shit, is waiting to find out, like, is it Bubba?
Yeah.
Is it Bubba's ghost? Is it the little girl? Is it Bubba's mom? Is it the district attorney? Is it one of the guys who did it?
Yeah.
And that is what really, I think, helps this movie hold tight, because it's not a slasher movie in the traditional sense at all.
No.
There is a gradual knockoff.
There is slashings.
Yeah, I mean, there's knocking off people. And,
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's more of a grinding
Grinding,
than a
yeah.
slashing and a snuffing. But no, and again, like the murders I would also describe in this film are ghastly.
Yeah.
Because they're more about the reality of the death, but not witnessing it.
Well, and being a TV movie, it's what you don't see that is scarier,
For
of
sure.
course, too.
For sure. So I think that they just hit so many right notes with this particular film. There are very few things in life that have like a crazed cult following that I get it immediately like this film.
I
really understand why people all over America would not let it go.
Yeah.
Because it was so memorable and so creepy and so well done, and also moral. It's
Absolutely.
extremely moral.
No.
It's about righting wrongs and how justice sometimes is not justice.
No.
So anyway, and that would ring true with a lot of people, especially if they were growing up in the 60s and 70s and then watched that film.
That is also very true. So later that night, Harless returns home, and he's looking pretty distraught as he takes a swig of his booze. He wanders out to the field to find the Scarecrow is no longer at its post. It's just the post now. So he kicks the pole over, and he returns home, but he stops because as he's going into his house, he hears machinery fire up in his barn. So he enters to find that the wood chipper he was working on is now turned on. So he calls out, suspecting it to be Sam, and he also hears that something is rustling above in the hayloft. So he goes up, and one of the shots that I was talking about earlier, this shot here of him going over the ladder and just the light or absence of it that's on his face, it looks like a mask almost.
Well, the light is going, as far as I could tell, through the ladder he's climbing. So he has shadow and light as he's moving.
Yeah.
So his eyes are sometimes very well lit, and other times he's bathed in shadow.
Yeah.
And the fact that he's going up it very slowly. He's taking his time because he's worried there's someone up there. He's, feeling haunted. And that's the best part about the Scarecrow waiting there, is the Scarecrow is haunting them.
Yes, he is.
But the other thing is, at this juncture, anyone could do that.
Anybody could be.
Anybody could make a Scarecrow and put it on your lawn.
Yeah.
And I will. To you.
Yeah, you will.
Yeah. Oh no, you're just gonna make love to the Scarecrow I made with my own two hands.
So he enters the loft and he grabs a hand scythe because he sees nothing at first. So he slowly approaches the back of the loft. But as he's doing this, he's walking along the edge of the loft, and suddenly the wood chipper fires back up. He loses his balance. He clings onto a light, but that is no hope for him as he plummets right into his wood chipper.
And as he falls in, we just see the light he was hanging onto to try not to fall in. They play this for heavy suspense.
Yeah.
He doesn't just and go into a wood chipper. He grabs onto a hanging light, and as he's holding onto it, starts breaking and shooting sparks around.
Yeah.
And when he finally drops down, we hear the wood chipper.
And
we see the light just sitting there rocking back and forth a little bit.
And then we cut to the boarding house in the morning as Jelly is tossed onto a plate.
What a great edit.
It's so good.
It's friggin' shades of Sam Raimi.
Yeah.
I mean, literally falls in and then just cherry preserves right on a plate.
Yep. Otis is enjoying his breakfast at the boarding house.
Listen, Otis enjoys every breakfast. Okay,
yes. So he's enjoying his breakfast at the boarding house as one of the residents are telling him, oh, it's been a crazy morning so far. Like the sheriff was over there. There's been some police activity, an ambulance. And he's like, what's going on? He's like, oh, well, Harless fell into his machine. So he finds out immediately that Harless is gone now. So we see the body being loaded into the ambulance, or what's left of it.
Yeah, I that was my first thought, because it looked like there was a body-shaped thing under the blanket. I was like, oh, good, they put it in some hefties and then kind of shaped it. A little bit.
It's like that freaking that meme's going around, or not meme, but the how-to guide, because it's Halloween time, of like putting your milk bottles and everything together to make like the trash bag body.
Yeah. A fun way to make your garbage men nervous.
So we see that Otis arrives outside the house, and we also see that his wife is being consoled and escorted to the DA's car. Otis and Sam also share a glance right before he leaves, and then later that night, Otis speaks to Skeeter and Philby, who are convinced that this wasn't an accident. Philby even confirms the Scarecrow was out there last night, and Otis tells them to mind their business before they all get caught. Philby then asks who turned the machine off then, and Otis states, oh, well, it just probably ran out of gas. And Philby says, well, how do you know? Smash cut to them entering the barn, checking the gas to find that it is almost completely full, confirming that somebody turned off that machine. Otis adds the same person who turned it on.
Yes. Again, ghastliness.
Yeah.
And the way that they test it is by putting the handle of a shovel into the tank and lifting it up and seeing it soaking wet, which is a great way to visually show the audience instead of just saying it, which is really works great.
So the next morning, Otis drives out to the Ritter residence as Mary Lee comes out, glaring at him. He tries to speak to her, but she runs off, so that Otis goes to knock on Mrs. Ritter's door, and sneaky little bastard he is. He's off to the side. I never noticed that. When she opens the door, he's off to the side.
Oh, yeah,
so she
he's
has
just
no
watching.
idea. Yeah.
Yeah, no, he is haunting people as much as supposedly Bubba would be.
So he's like, oh, well, I got a package. I need your signature. So she signs off, but then he puts his foot in the door, commenting on how he doesn't believe Harless's demise was an accident. And Miss Ritter comments that there's other justice in this world, eye for an eye. And he says, okay, well, if that's the case, the score's settled. 1-for-1. You took one of mine. I took one of yours. We're done. And she's like, no, we're not.
No. And then she grabbed him, like in Breaking Bad, said, we're done I say we're done. And then she told him she's the one who knocks.
She's the one that knocks.
Yeah.
So she warns him to stay away from Mary Lee. And later that evening, Philby is closing up his feed store. He walks outside and notices that his hogs are going crazy. And as he goes to the pen...
Is that a euphemism?
As he goes to the pen, he sees the Scarecrow is now also in the field across from him.
Ugh.
So he approaches it quickly, falling to his knees before it, sensing that he is most likely going to be the next to go.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think that is pretty apparent.
Yeah. So we cut to the church Halloween party where we find the town is all in their costumes, having a great time. We see Mary Lee and some other kids bobbing for apples, and she's like, hey, why don't we go play hide and seek? And that's when we see Otis is also watching outside of a window.
He's always watching.
He's always watching.
He's like Santa Claus, but no, he's just like Santa Claus. Really.
So Mary Lee counts for her turn, and then she turns to see who else but Otis standing there. And he, of course, is putting on the whole shtick of like, I'm the mailman. Everybody knows the mailman. Everybody loves the mailman.
Yeah.
And that's when he says, he comments on her costume, asking if she showed it to Mrs. Ritter because, that's her friend. And, she might be playing a joke on him and his friends. And maybe she told her what that secret is. And that he is more than happy to hear that secret and has her come over. And that's when she tells him, I know what you did to Bubba.
And she's not supposed to know.
No.
Which suggests somebody is telling her.
I know what you did to Bubba, and I know that you lied, and Bubba told her everything. Otis questions if Miss Ritter told her, but Mary Lee keeps saying that Bubba told her, even confirming that she knows that he's dead. So Mary Lee runs off, and as Otis rounds the corner after her, one of the sheriffs is just like, hey, the party's up front.
Yeah. Yeah, they're all trying really hard not to give him not to have to deal with him is a better way to put it.
So Otis goes back to the party getting some punch because at first he goes up to the woman and she's like, oh, you don't drink. So he takes the non-alcoholic punch at first, does not like it. Then he gets the boozy punch. And that's when Philby and Skeeter find him. And that's when he tells them about the Scarecrow. So the three venture out to Philby's field. And what do you know? No Scarecrow there anymore. Not even the pole.
Not even the pole, no.
So Philby tells him that it was right there and comments on Otis looking at him crazy. And Otis tells him that they'll come back in the morning, but Philby worries he won't have that time. It's going to come for him. And Skeeter states that they should go to the police. And Otis tells him that'd be a stupid idea if they want to spend the rest of their life in prison.
I mean, 3 hots and a cot.
That's true.
And substantially, although not none, less killer scarecrows.
I just imagine, and then you said that, and I just imagined just like Larry Drake as Bubba, just in like a guard uniform, but it's still the Scarecrow.
Oh yeah, a little stick time from the Scarecrow. No, you just get in there and there's just a gang run by the Tin Man.
Oh my God!
He's like, I understand you fucked with a friend of mine on the outside. I'm going to make your life very difficult.
So later that night, Mrs. Ritter sits by the fire. She hears some noise, so she goes to her kitchen and shuts her back door before lighting the stove and putting a kettle on. So she returns to her chair, and that's when we find out that Otis has snuck into the house. He covers her mouth, telling her that he warned her, and this is the last warning. He tells her it's going to be an eye for an eye this time. They're even. So he uncovers her mouth. She lets out a scream. He grabs her mouth again and tells her, no tricks. We're done. I'll let you go. But as he stands up and lets her go, we realize that she has met her own demise and had a heart attack.
And he basically scared her to death.
Yeah.
And again, ghastly horror. He has that realization he killed this woman.
Yeah.
But because he is built different, instead of bathing in that tragedy, he immediately is like, all right, got to cover up my tracks.
Well, the kettle scares him because that's my
Yes.
favorite shot is him
Yeah,
just
no,
looking
it's really
terrified
good
as the
stuff.
kettle goes off. So that's when he takes the tea kettle off the stove, and that's when he's like, well, hey, I could just turn this gas on. There's a roaring fireplace. So he turns the gas on, steps out, the car drives away. We see a close-up of the fireplace, the flames going, and then that fucking house just explodes.
it is a hell of an explosion. And
Shut down production for one day.
Oh, really?
They
I look
lost it.
forward to
They
learning
lost the
about
day
that.
on the schedule,
Well,
yeah.
it was way too big.
Yeah.
But I will say, what a great way to tell the audience, like, hey, don't you leave before the third act.
Yeah.
Like, we got stuff happening.
Yeah.
Because and things are about to get even more scary too.
Yes.
But that explosion is just hella massive.
Insane. So the next morning, we see Mary Lee discover the smoking remnants of Ritter's house as she goes up to see the police are looking over the wreckage with the DA, Sam. And that's when the cop states that he believes it was a gas leak, most likely an accident, nothing malicious. But Sam requests that they look it over to see if they can find. And that's when the cop's like, what are you looking for? And he's like, one single shred.
Yes. And goddamn, and this is a great red herring moment for the prosecutor.
Yeah.
Because that really makes you start to think that maybe he's the one doing it. And frankly, maybe he is.
Yeah.
That's kind of the thing.
It could have been. Yeah.
And that's the fun
Yeah.
of paranoia.
So Mary Lee sits outside her house singing a song while we see Philby, Skeeter, and Otis all at their jobs. But later that night, Philby is alone at the feed shop. He starts to hear his hogs going wild again as he
That's
steps
a
out.
euphemism?
It's not a euphemism.
Okay.
He steps out to investigate and finds nothing. And that's when we hear a sound out by the silo. So he arms himself with a club. He makes his way over. And that's when he finds a chain just blowing in the wind against the silo.
Which is eerie,
Yes.
to say the least. Again, bathed in blue moonlight, wind sounds rustling, music delicately playing.
Yeah.
And most importantly, his facial expressions. The amount of fear on his face
Yeah.
is so believable.
Yeah.
He really you buy it. You buy that he's this good old boy. You buy that he's this hunky-dory farmer who did something really dark. He's got some dark, secrets.
He does.
And he is rightfully so terrified that those dark secrets are about to come back.
They are, because as the chain makes him laugh a little bit, he goes back towards his office, but that's when he sees somebody in his office turn off the light. So he runs to his car. He cannot get it started. He starts getting super scared and clutching his chest, so he takes a pill. Then he tries the car again with no success, so he gets out and decides to check the car, but then he sees that somebody is coming towards him, so he runs into the silo, hiding, locking himself in, but that does not work for him because then the silo turns on as the feed and the grains just starts to pour in on him.
Yes, so I think it was feed corn.
Yeah, feed corn.
Starts pouring in from the top, and this is, in my opinion, the most memorable kill in the film.
Absolutely.
Because not only because it's terrifying, because for real, like, what could you do?
Yeah.
Nothing.
No.
We never see anyone turning the machines on. We never
Nope.
see anyone holding him in the silo so he can't get out. It's all just darkness. And as it fills, he struggles and struggles, and it just keeps filling. And people really do die like that.
Yeah.
That can happen. Although silos are far more likely to explode. Because the dust can become very, very flammable.
Oh, yeah.
So as it rises and rises, it's depicted in such a Hitchcocky and gradual way.
Well, he's got his flashlight, too.
Yeah,
The
and he's
flashlight
shining his
starts getting
flashlight around.
Covered, yeah.
Exactly. And then eventually he drops the flashlight and we see his hand stop doing anything.
Yeah, so he is now suffocated, and the next morning, Otis goes out to see Skeeter to tell him about Philby. Hearing this news, Skeeter just goes hysterical himself, and Otis tries to tell him it was an accident, it was a heart attack, and he's like, well, which was it? Was it an accident or a heart attack? He's like, it was both. He got scared, he got stuck in the silo, and he had a heart attack. So he also tells Skeeter not to panic now, and that Otis believes it was Bubba, but Skeeter denies it, stating that Bubba's buried, they killed him, that he's buried in the ground now, and Otis asks him to make one deal with them that he can prove it before they go to the police. So they go to the cemetery that night, and they find Bubba's grave, which they dig up, and that's when Skeeter is shown to be the last one in the grave. As he's digging, they open the coffin, and he is freaked out because Bubba's corpse is still inside.
Yes, and again, ghastly horror. There's this awesome shot of when he's down looking in there where they're basically from below looking up through the hole at Otis up top watching as this guy is digging. Otis is bathed in that moonlight and the guy digging has a lantern lighting him.
Both of them bathed in dirt, and Otis is starting to look really fucking crazy.
Yeah, no, he looks like he's gone completely mad.
Yeah.
And now that they've confirmed Bubba is dead in the ground, to them, at least initially, that establishes that this is Bubba's ghost.
Yeah.
Although I think that Otis is really thinking more that this is the DA, who is one of the only people they're suspecting that's not
Mary
dead.
Lee, yeah.
Well, and Mary Lee, who is literally
a child.
The fact that he's like, it could be that little girl. She's like 6.
Yeah.
So
they open the coffin, and Skeeter's immediately freaked out. He's running. He's going to tell the cops. He's telling Otis he can't take it anymore, and that's when Otis is like, "All right, man." He's like, "You win. Let's just get back in the hole. We'll bury the body, and then we'll go see the police." So as Skeeter's down there digging, that's when Otis picks up his shovel, bashes Skeeter on the head, and in a beautiful little shot addition, when he brings the shovel back, Skeeter's hat is attached to the shovel.
It's stuck to it. And again, I know I keep saying it, ghastly horrors.
Ghastly horrors indeed. So now we are at the finale of the film. A drunken Otis is driving home, and he is weaving all over the road. He's enjoying his booze in his little mail car. But then as he approaches one section of the road, we see that Mary Lee is just alone in the road.
Just standing there as his headlights are making her glow.
Yeah. So still suspecting her, he goes after her with his car. He ends up crashing his car, so he gets out and he chases her on foot. And now we have a chase in a pumpkin patch.
Which, what a finale.
Yeah.
So he's chasing after this little girl through the pumpkin patch. Again, we've got the corn stalks, we've got the blue light, we've got the wind, we've got the pumpkins.
The eerie soundtrack.
Yeah, it's so Halloween-y. It's so fall. It's everything you could ever want from this kind of movie. And it's from a 1981 TV film, which is just blows my mind.
It really does.
That they check all these boxes. And again, time has been very kind to this movie.
Oh, absolutely.
It already, I think it looked old when it came out. So it looks extra old now. But I mean, he's chasing her down. Classic chase scene, and as he's doing this, we're still left wondering what's going on.
What's going on?
Is it a ghost, or is there a person doing it, or what? What is going on?
So she is hiding near is it a combine or a plow? Because
I'm pretty sure that's a combine.
Said a plow. So
I think that's a combine.
So she's hiding in a combine.
Because it has the shreddy things.
Shredding, yeah.
I am
rototillers.
from the city.
Yeah.
It has the shreddy things on the
rototillers,
back.
yes. So that is when she's hiding in the scoop of it, and that's when he finds her. He's right on top of her, and all of a sudden the combine comes to life.
Yes, the lights click on.
The motor clicks on.
And
and that's when he's like, "Sam, is that you? I wasn't doing anything. Come on out. We can talk about this." The combine just starts inching towards him, and now it's just fucking chasing him through the pumpkin patch.
And it's important to remember, Otis at this point has gone totally mad.
Insane.
He killed his friend not only so that he wouldn't go to the police, but also out of sheer fear that maybe it's him doing this.
So he is running. This combine's right behind him, and then he runs right into the Scarecrow. Except the Scarecrow is now clutching the pitchfork out front of it, like holding it directly out.
Oh, yeah.
And he runs right into it. His gut runs right into it. We see blood on his mouth. We see blood, and he just sinks down and dies right there.
And it's the bloodiest the film's been since the shooting earlier.
Yeah. So that's when the machine shuts down. We see Mary Lee is still hiding in the pumpkin patch, and something starts approaching her. And that's when we see the Scarecrow, now moving completely, hand her a flower over. And she says, "Thank you, Bubba. Tomorrow, I'll teach you a new game. Has anyone ever showed you the chasing game? It's just like tag." And that is the end of 1981's Dark Night of the Scarecrow.
Well, and the eeriest part of that ending is she keeps talking for a little bit, like she's talking to her friend Bubba.
Yeah.
As the music builds up,
swells up,
and the credits go. And what a blood-chilling ending.
The freeze frame on the flower that he's handing to her, because that's the freeze frame, is their hands touching.
Yeah.
Oh, God, so good.
And it's gloved hand. It suggests that very likely this is Bubba's ghost.
Yeah.
But there's still a possibility that it could be someone pretending to be the Scarecrow.
I kind of interpreted it as Mary Lee was the one behind it. Because that was a game. She was playing.
But you mean that she got Bubba's ghost to kill them.
Yes.
Oh,
yes,
yeah,
yes,
yeah. I think that's a fair. I think
Yeah.
that's a fair assessment.
Yeah.
For a second, I thought you were like, it's all in her head. She was doing all the killing.
No. She faked getting mauled by that dog. So
Oh shit! She was playing 4D chess when we were playing 2D checkers.
So would you
Damn.
would you like to know some fun things about the film?
No, Dave, you just blew my mind. You can't just walk past that and leave me in the dust. Jeez, that's gruesome what you just did. No, I would love to know some stuff about Dark Night of the Scarecrow.
So it was filmed in Piru, California, shot in 17 days, originally supposed to... What? Oh, what did I say?
You said Peru?
Is it Piru?
Pyru. How many times have you watched Silent Night, Deadly Night 3?
My apologies.
No, okay, so for those who don't understand, I'm not actually...
No,
well,
I know.
I am chiding Dave, fuck it.
Yeah.
But
we have seen Silent Night, Deadly Night like 3 times together.
Part 3.
Part 3, yeah.
Yeah, no, there's an entire joke
Yeah.
in Silent Night, Deadly Night 3 where she says, I'm going to Piru, and he says, you're going to Peru? And
Yep.
she says, no, Piru, in the valley.
Yeah.
My grandma has an orange orchard. So, yeah, Piru makes perfect sense that that's where they'd film it.
Shot in 17 days, originally supposed to be 18, but a fire cost them a day.
Wow, 17 days for that kind of movie. That's actually a very
Impressive.
efficient shooting schedule.
Yeah. It was premiered on CBS on October 24th of 1981. All nocturnal shots were shot at night.
I mean, it looked like it. It
Yeah.
looked great.
Screenwriter J.D. Feigelson went to Texas and recorded the sounds of the cicadas so they could be used in the film.
A little extra something.
Yes. Originally conceived as a theatrical film, it went directly to television instead, premiering on CBS just before Halloween in 81.
I wonder, does that mean they actually made the film first and then sold it to TV?
I mean, that might be it, yeah.
I mean, that that could be. Usually that doesn't happen back then, but it could happen.
Feigelson said the name Otis P. Hazelrig on the sign, saw the name Otis P. Hazelrig on a sign and liked it so much that he used the name for the film's main character.
Okay, I mean, that's good as getting one from a phone book, I guess.
Charles Durning did most of his own stunts in the film's climactic chase scene when he was running away from the tractor. A double can be seen in a few shots of darker hair. Yes, you can see the double.
There's a part where he jumps on the guy in the cemetery.
Yeah.
And it's...
Clearly a stunt.
I mean, all of a sudden it's a guy with way darker, bigger hair who is easily 100 pounds thinner.
Yeah.
It's very apparent.
Hazelrig is never seen wearing anything but his Postal Service uniform throughout the entire film.
Yeah, that's true.
Strother Martin was originally scheduled to play the part of Otis T. Hazelrig, but passed away before the film could be made. However, a few lines of the script suggested by Martin remained in the final film, but spoken by Durning, who eventually played the part. As of early 2021, Tanya Crow and Robert F. Lyons are the only 2 main actors from the film still alive, which is Mary Lee and Skeeter.
Oh, that makes sense. They were 2 of the youngest people on the film.
Although it was never mentioned in the film, Philby's first name was revealed to be George in the film's production notes. In the film's name, Bubba's real name is Charles Elliott Ritter, which we see on the tombstone.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Early in the film, Robert F. Lyons hurts his hand spinning around in pain. A scene like this occurs early in The Wizard of Oz when Ray Bolger hurts his own hand spinning around in a very similar way. In this scene, he is playing the character Hunk before reappearing in the film as the Scarecrow.
Oh, that's clever. Huh.
3 of the guns seen in the film did not work when the posse shoots Bubba to death.
Fair enough.
An interesting coincidence, Lane Smith's character in the first of the 4 men to die in the film, and in real life, Lane Smith was the first of the 4 actors portraying the vigilantes to pass as well.
Well, that's just dark. Jeez.
J.D. Feigelson, screenwriter, as the voice of the man who radios Heartless on the CB radio just after the shooting of Bubba.
A little Hitchcocky thing.
A little bit. So what are your final thoughts on Dark Night of the Scarecrow?
Oh, my God. Fuck you. It's a quintessential horror film, a quintessential Halloween time film, a quintessential television movie.
Yeah.
It to me, it's historically valuable.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just interesting or fun or scary. It's a time capsule of a very interesting time in television.
Absolutely.
In film. I mean, this movie came out right when the slasher boom was about to start.
Yeah. Pretty crazy.
It's nuts. I mean, Halloween had already come out and was a hit. The next year, Friday the 13th was going to become a hit. 2 years after that, Nightmare on Elm Street was going to become a hit as well. So it's kind of like looking at the stuff that happened in the 90s pre-Scream, how it's very different from what ended up becoming the big thing.
Yeah.
And I love that about this movie. I love that this is a very different, old-fashioned in its way horror film. I think that I mean, if you consider yourself a movie lover, it's an own it. I really do think that. I think that you will never regret owning this little TV movie that'll creep you out every time you watch it. I see no reason not to own it. But for the love of God, watch it however you can.
Yeah. No, it's a buy it for me as well, simply from the fact of the restoration. The restoration looks so fucking good.
Yeah, it's amazing. And I just ordered the 4K, so I'm excited to watch it.
Bonus
You'll never
content,
be allowed to.
Yeah, bonus content on the disc is great as well. Seeing the performances, seeing the way that the movie plays out, it's tight runtime. All of this just makes it so much fun and, like you said, perfect for the Halloween season. So I cannot think of any other reason why you wouldn't want to own this movie.
Yeah, I would have to agree.
So as we always like to end the show with a couple of recommendations, I have two this week. The first one being Strangeland from 1998. A detective pursues a sadist specializing in body modification rituals who lures teenagers through the internet. Enrique asked me why I picked this one.
I just thought it sounded, I like Strangeland a lot.
The reason I picked this is because, not really a spoiler, but there's a portion of Strangeland where a mob decides to do their own mob justice, and in doing so, make the situation way worse than if they had just left it alone, just like in Dark Knight of the Scarecrow.
Thought for you. Mob justice is neither a mob nor justice. Discuss amongst yourselves.
Second recommendation, 1988's Scarecrows. Criminals hijack a plane and force the pilot and his daughter to fly them to Mexico. However, an unexpected landing finds them a cemetery inhabited by killer scarecrows.
That movie is a goddamn trip.
Yes,
that
it
is
is
such a good time.
Yes, it is.
Holy shit, that movie is fun.
So what's your recommendation?
Well, I had to think long and hard since you stole
The easiest one.
Scarecrows.
Yeah.
I was going to say Night of the Scarecrow, but they're not that alike, actually, other than there being a scarecrow. So then I decided, you know what, I'm going to go with something else that is very different, but gives me a very similar vibe. You want to guess?
Pumpkinhead?
Yeah, Pumpkinhead. You looked at my screen, didn't you?
No.
Because it's on there.
The more I thought about it, though, I was just, when you said similar vibe, I'm just like, oh, wait a minute, like a Vengeance. Yeah. No, that would absolutely make sense.
1988's Pumpkinhead, directed by special effects legend Stan Winston, starring Lance Henriksen.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen this movie, that's bizarre to me.
Crazy.
It's a phenomenal movie. It's all about vengeance from beyond the grave.
Southern vengeance.
Yeah, Southern fried vengeance. Basically, the IMDb description is, after a tragic accident, a man conjures up a towering, vengeful demon called Pumpkinhead to destroy a group of unsuspecting teenagers. But it's a film about the folly of vengeance, how there is no real revenge. It's definitely the story of the man who seeks vengeance should dig two graves. It's a great one, and it has atmosphere to spare.
Yeah.
Lots of that creepy at nighttime stuff. It's a much bigger budget movie than Dark Knight of the Scarecrow or Scarecrows or Strangeland. It's a bigger film.
Yeah.
But it has a great atmosphere. It's not entirely Halloween-y, but damned if it wouldn't get you in the mood for Halloween.
It absolutely would.
And the special effects are jaw-dropping. The monster's incredibly memorable.
If the opening of that movie alone does not get you in the mood for Halloween, I don't know what will.
You really love children dying, don't you?
No. I'm talking about the opening credits, like with the flames and everything. But I mean, I'm not Keith.
Just making you feel bad. But no, so I'm going to say Pumpkinhead from 1988. Definitely worth a watch.
Very good pick.
Would be a good pairing.
And if you like Pumpkinhead, then you should check out Pumpkinhead 2, and then that's the only sequels that exist after that.
That's harsh, considering our very own Dayton native produced the other sequels.
I haven't seen Bloodwings in a good bit. Ashes to Ashes I caught on Pluto.
Bloodwings is part 2.
Yeah. Oh, Bloodwings is part 2. No, Ashes to Ashes is part 3? I can't remember the other subtitles, but I watched either part 3 or part 4 a while back on Pluto, and it did not hold up.
They're a little rough.
Yeah.
I mean, that was during the right before the big sci-fi original movie boom of the monster movies that were really successful.
Yeah.
But I love Pumpkinhead 2. I've always had a soft spot for Pumpkinhead 2, and it's oddly Stephen King-y-ness to it too.
It's also really heartbreaking.
Oh yeah, it's so sad.
Yeah.
No, it's incredibly sad.
Pumpkinhead 2, cannot recommend either of those enough. Good recommendation on that.
Well, thanks, pal.
You're welcome.
God.
Would you like to know what we're talking about next week?
Absolutely not.
Well, too bad, because we're unfortunately reaching the end of our Halloween horror month.
Yes, it's true, at our weekly spooky combo shows.
That is true, but we are going out with a bang, because we are going out with a little film from 2004 that I know you and I share a lot of admiration for.
Yes.
Satan's Little Helper. From 2004, directed by, is it Jeff Lieberman?
Jeff Lieberman.
Lieberman, yeah, thank you.
Yes. No, this one is one I'm excited to revisit because last year we were blessed with a Blu-ray.
Beautiful Blu-ray.
And I want to say, and this, I am not often wrong. Ever. No, about this kind of thing. But when they announced a Blu-ray, I was like, who cares? This movie was shot on video in 2004.
Yeah.
It's not going to, it's because there's this big thing right now about putting standard definition movies on Blu-ray. And I just don't, I mean, I guess it's because people like the packaging and they're going to pay for it. We'll see how the Murder Party Blue looks.
Yeah.
But like, I don't love that.
Yeah.
I get a little frustrated sometimes. But then I read an interview about the Blu-ray and found out that Jeff Lieberman shot Satan's Little Helper on the Cine Alta, the Sony Cine Alta, the camera they shot Star Wars Episode 1 on. And supposedly he claims, I don't know if this is true, he claims literally the camera that they shot Star Wars Episode 1 on.
Oh, wow.
Like that because it had to be, you couldn't rent it where he was.
Yeah.
They had to fly it in from Los Angeles. So the film was shot in HD right at the beginning of HD existing.
Damn.
And therefore the Blu-ray would be an upgrade.
Yeah.
That made me insanely excited to get my copy.
Absolutely.
And I watched it. I thought it looked pretty good.
Yeah.
But I'm excited to revisit it, if just to enjoy the definition.
Yes.
So I'm really looking forward to revisiting that. And that's one that I found just by literally looking up Halloween horror films.
First time I ever saw it was on Netflix because I think I texted you about it because I think I had asked you if like you had seen it and you were just like, dude, watch it.
Yeah,
now.
I was like, watch it right this second.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a phenomenally fun.
So depraved.
Depraved is the perfect word.
Yeah.
Because it's fun and mean-spirited at the same time.
Yeah.
And I just can't, like, I need to listen to the commentary track on that because I can't even imagine how you would write something so fucking mean and weird. And it's one of the few films that is this mean, but I respect it because it's thought out really well.
And it has blasphemy.
And how? And how?
Do we have any emails, by the way?
No one loves us.
Oh.
I'll double check one last time.
Well, that's sad.
I did check a few times during the show just in case we got somebody to swoop in. If you want to send us an email, we'd love to hear from you. You can contact us at doyouevenmoviepod@gmail.com or go to doyouevenmovie.com and write us a message through there. Nothing.
All right.
Nada. Zilch. Although, I mean, we did get like 1 million requests for the Christmas season.
Yeah.
Which we're going to fill as many of them as we can.
Yep.
Might be able to fill all of them so far.
Yeah.
But we love to get requests. November is pretty much kaput.
Yeah. November's booked.
Yeah. We've got, because we have spent a very long time finding some of the best and most unexpected Thanksgiving films of all time. And then December, we've pretty much got sorted out. But January will get very interesting.
And I will go ahead and spoil right now, we are not going to be covering Thanksgiving or Thanksgilling.
Oh, sorry. For a second, I was like, Thanksgiving. Oh, you mean the movie thing? Yeah. Those are too obvious. And actually, I mean, I think we're only covering one horror film.
I think so, yeah.
For Thanksgiving.
I think, yeah. And if you're a horror fan of Thanksgiving,
you already know what
it is.
I mean, you know what it is and you know what it isn't, which is cranberry
sauce. Yeah.
So, on that note, my friends, thank you so much for joining us on Do You Even Movie. Make sure to check us out at doyouevenmovie.com for all the information. In the show notes, we have social media and blah, blah, blah.
Yes.
If you're listening to this as a podcast, please make sure that you have subscribed to the podcast and leave us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. If you're watching this on YouTube, leave a like, leave a comment. We love to hear from you guys about the movies you like. And apparently, after doing Scary Movie, we got a comment from somebody who said his comment was something along the lines of the algorithm has blessed me with a cult horror podcast I didn't know about.
Ooh.
So hopefully you're enjoying and then not hugely disappointed when you realize we cover a lot of movies. We do a decent amount of horror.
Yeah.
So, and I said doo-doo. Ha 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 ha. So anyway, until next time, you guys stay safe out there. Hopefully I'm going to go to another goddamn haunt. Or two.
We'll see.
I'm going to try, goddammit. So until next time, guys, we will see you next Tuesday.
Bubba didn't do it.
Bubba did not do it. That needs to be a bumper sticker.